So I'm excited to moderate this conversation with folks from a variety of different organizations around this notion of what does the government do? What is their role in this very, very transformational era? I have to commend the presentation we just all listened to was fascinating, and I think this is a perfect follow-on. So I'm going to start with His Excellency. Tell us about these sort of recent phenomenal results in terms of job growth and enterprise growth here in the UAE in the last few years.
Just to put things in perspective, the fundamental shift that we see have a big impact, but it is even bigger. It's a bigger impact here in the UAE because we are growing at a very fast pace. We have seen the labor market double in size in the last 5 years. We have seen a growth of around 45% in new companies established. We have seen an increase and a growth of number of UAE nationals participation in the private sector, about 390%. We have seen participation of females in the workforce grow by double in the last 5 years. Now, all of that put in perspective that these growth rates are driven by fundamentally the vision of the leadership of the UAE and how we embrace future, and we actually try to work with everyone around the world and within the country to make this country hospitable, a country that where you can build the business, have your children go to school, enjoy a very lovely life, hopefully participate in the growth of the economy, and as well satisfy your career. I mean, this challenge, this makes us challenged every day. Right. Because we need to keep changing and we keep to adopt very fast. And I sure hope that something like the discussion that we just had about UA skills is another twist in this, because the technology disruptive change that is happening has additional challenge that we need to address all of us together.
But it seems like the approach the UAE has taken has been different from the historical government mindset of regulating and limiting and restricting business to being one more of a partnership with private enterprise and an architect of how the future ought manifest.
Agreed, and I think what the governments will face, and we definitely face here in the UAE, is that the government role is transforming significantly. It's no more only a regulator. Yep. It needs to anticipate the future. And in anticipating the future, we need to engage everyone that can add value to that. And I think the answer is that we all don't know, but we will keep trying to address this challenge. And more importantly, I think we should build the skill of being agile and being able to adapt very quickly. And I think this is something that our leadership here has instated in our thinking, and the philosophy of how we operate is that keep moving to the future, look at every challenge as an opportunity, and then I think in the UAE we were, and we'll keep continuing. I think what we just saw, as an example, is the first mile in many thousands of miles of initiatives, projects, issues that we'll need to work on to enable to help shape the future and maybe become ready for it.
Great. Gilbert Houngbo, bienvenue. I just learned, by the way, that Mr. Houngbo is not only an esteemed politician who's led his own country, he's also a citizen of my home country, Canada. So, way to go. Let's talk about where His Excellency left off, which is this notion of labor standards, which, again, in a different economic context, perhaps would have been constructed or defined differently, but in this sort of AI world that we live in and the rapidly changing skill requirements. So how is the International Labor Organization rethinking labor market governance to remain relevant while continuing to safeguard, worker protections?
First of all, let me thank the Minister of Human Resources for organizing this, and thank you for this very nice surprise that we have with this presentation of this new initiative, which is quite very good. I also wanted to apologize for my voice. I have a cold. Back to your point. Obviously, we all know that the AI has been transforming a lot of things. And as the minister just said, we don't necessarily know 5 or 10 years from now what will be the situation. So the international labor standard, in fact, remain more than ever very, very relevant. Mm-hmm. That being said, what we need to do, we need to also look some of those standards may not be necessarily applicable today. So this is why in the last 5 years, the ILO has been going through a process that we call the SRM, the Standard Review Mechanism, to make sure that standards that are no more relevant can be put aside. And at the same time, during this process, you also identify the gaps that you might have based on the current environment. So one of the very clear gap that we have, and a big challenge we have, is how to strike the right balance between a very growing technology, AI, that you want to encourage, because not only is it a matter of productivity gain, it's a matter of making our life better, easier, it's a job creation, but at the same token, you need to ensure protection for those that are working in the domain. And this is why some of you are aware of, since last year, we have a big discussion on how do you get that balance for the platform economy, for example, to make sure that it's a very growing sector. We need to encourage that growth,
right?
Get the wealth out of it, at the same token, protecting on that. This is one.
It's a tricky balance.
Yeah, it's a very, very difficult. You see, the other thing that we noticed, our generation or beyond, we were used to, okay, you have one job, 9 to 7, 9 to 5, and at the same time, people will start a job in the same company and maybe retire from the same company. We know that doesn't apply today. So we read, the mobility of the job for the youth. So what we are doing in ILO is advising our member states to move from a job-centered approach to a worker-centered approach. Okay. So the right and the protection that you can provide can move along when they are changing jobs, etc. The third point that I will quickly mention that, you see, in this current environment, where we know that there are some loose ends, it's important, and I really appreciate it, Excellency. You used 2 words, you don't know how it's critical for us in ILO. He said we have to remain being humble enough to recognize that we don't know it all. Yeah. Secondly, we need to remain agile. Right. So our employment policies, our standards need to remain agile so that we could adapt quickly in those changes that we are experiencing.
His Excellency's words also rang true with me around this notion of, the UAE taking this sort of humility approach to saying, yes, we're willing and open to learn from others. You can see it in who lives in the United Arab Emirates. It's you bring in, you import the best, and that will obviously accrue to your benefit. As it relates to AI, the top experts don't know what the future of AI is going to be. I opened a conference I hosted in November in New York where I said, on the topic of AI, I think I use three words that I think anybody and everybody who thinks about and talks about AI should be using. And those three words are, I don't know. Because I don't know. We don't know on this panel. Sam Altman, who runs OpenAI, he doesn't know how AI is going to manifest. And that brings me to His Excellency Younes Sekkouri of Morocco. If you can put the mic right up to your mother. At this time that you are responsible for helping with reskilling, if you accept that framework of nobody really knows how it's needed to manifest, how are you able to design policies to help the people of Morocco translate into really tangible job outcomes?
Well, first of all, thank you for the invitation, really, Your Excellency, and very delighted to be amongst you today. I think that framing policies or reframing employment and labor policies is one of the toughest tasks any government would have today, for many reasons. But it starts with investment. So what is your forecast? What is the capacity of the country, with the government, with the authorities, to anticipate and to frame the investment? For instance, in Morocco, one of the latest investments that we had, and I want to echo what my dear brother and minister said, for your country, which is just brilliant and extraordinary, is a cutting-edge investment on aeronautics, where in one investment, we doubled the capacity of exportations of the country and the turnover from $2 to $4 billion in two single plants where we build engines for aircrafts, namely Boeing and Airbus, and they called LEAP. This is the latest generation of engines. So the capacity to work for years, provide the ecosystem, the cluster of aeronautics, for instance, and to make sure that with your investment bail, the way you provide incentives, the way you align the players is key in order to make something happen.
Right.
But then you need absolutely to work on your active policies of employment. In other words, you need to make sure that all the players, and especially the professionals, they can take the lead from the government and from the other players in order to define what are the skills, or at least what are the mechanisms to prepare the skills. And one of the latest institutional designs that we've come up with is delegated management institutes. This is, so you bring those who work on aeronautics or those who work on car industry. We're producing nearly 1 million cars this year. And the car industry outperformed the chemicals and phosphates for which Morocco was famous for decades. So we could do it because we made it possible that the professional players, namely the investors in car industry, including electrical batteries now, they work together with the government in these institutes where they prepare talent, because one of the critical aspects of what the future entails is talent. And the third and last thing, there are so many areas we can cover, but the third and last thing is how you can monitor migration. Because sometimes you need your own resources that are critical for these investments, to stabilize the investments and to make sure that the scale is growing. But if you have pressure from other countries that have their own needs, we need to discuss, we need to talk, and we need to make sure there is a regulation of the fluxes of the migration for skilled people. And this is an international debate that needs to be enhanced.
So that sounds great, and many of those references are to enterprise companies, whether you're building automobiles or aircraft engines. But let me ask you a question that's not on our list of. Your portfolio also covers small business, right? And in many ways, small business actually, I mean, yes, it's important to have the HPs and the ServiceNows and the major companies, they play a critical role. But I think if you look at the numbers, the entrepreneurs, the small companies are really a big part of driving the engine, and yet, you know, they have less of a say, maybe less of a dialogue with government, obviously. How have you in Morocco, how have you in the UAE, and how have you thought about it at the ILO around engagement with that audience? Because it's a critical driver of what we're talking about here, this transformation.
Shall I? Yeah. Well, very important question. I think it brings the dimension that normally we overlook, and I think it's important to bring that the private sector at large, and then definitely these small and medium and these entrepreneurs are going to be they are a fundamental partner in this shaping. What we do in the UAE is basically, because we are relying heavily on integrated systems and data, so we are able to monitor the growth in the sectors, the kind of talent that they're attracting, how what kind of stagnation or growth is happening. And so I said before, and I'm gonna repeat here, our role is anticipation rather than reacting.
Right.
And so what we are trying to do is build that in our philosophy of how we do. We want to anticipate how we can support these small and medium enterprises and so forth. More importantly, I think it brings in this very disruptive, again, change that is happening. I think we need to transform the way we think. Unless we feel uncomfortable, then I think we are very shy of being able to address anything. I think we should be uncomfortable in our policies, outside the comfort zone of how we feel normal. If we don't do that, then we will not. And this goes across to our education system. I'm going to wear my other hat.
That's right.
I'm going to take advantage of my colleagues here. I think if we don't feel that we are outside our comfort zone. I mean, many are talking about, today we saw statistics, I don't know if you guys seen it, in 2040, 45 or something % of the workforce is going to be from Generation Z, Gen Z.
Yes, yes.
And so they will dictate how this is going to happen. And I think our universities, our schools, our programs need to very quickly adopt to that. And by adopting is, I think they need to feel that they are outside of the comfort zone. People talking about how we can make the students feel uncomfortable or outside their comfort zone. And I think we as policymakers, we as universities, and we who have a say in helping the future, shape the future, need to feel that as well.
Well, I like this idea of getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. I think that's the only way forward. Does the ILO have an approach to these sort of creator economy and entrepreneurs?
Very much so. The two things that I could insist on that, of course, ILO, you know, it's a tripartite institution, not only bringing the member state, the government, but also the trade union and the employers.
Right.
And if you look at the employers organization, essentially the focus is exactly on the small businesses, just because of what you say. And what we are noticing, given the AI and the evolving technology, you have more and more small businesses that have been created, and they are also the source of the economic growth, to the point where sometimes it became a gray zone between what is a small business and with what is a worker.
It's a spectrum, right?
And that spectrum. And we know recently, I think there was even another decision by the court in the Netherlands, I believe in the case of Uber, from what I understood correctly. So it's going to be important for us, for ILO, that when we talk about ILO, it was created in 1919 to really protect the workers. In today's, it's also important to keep in mind that not only you have to protect the workers, but you also have to protect those small businesses.
Yes.
Because they are the engine of the economic growth and protection. And the more you provide that protection, listen, over the past 2 decades, I think the world economy more or less grew by 3.5%.
Yep.
But the employment grew only by 1.3%.
Right. Right.
You know, so it's going to be important to really keep in mind those small businesses. That doesn't mean that we have to ignore the multinationals.
Right, of
because
course.
right now they are the ones that investing heavily in the
Yeah.
skills and providing the leadership in AI and the technology growth. However, the focus on the small is part of our key strategy.
This conversation could go on the rest of the day. Unfortunately, we're out of time. Thank you very much, everyone,
sir.
for your participation. Thank you.